Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome, everybody, to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. Oh, my goodness. Fall is in session, and it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I hope it is where you are. Maybe we're getting the sweaters out, maybe even a scarf or two. I'm in LA, so we're not doing that here. I'm still wearing, short skirts and sandals, but wherever you are, including California, I hope it's beautiful. So I am really excited about my guest here today. And before I introduce her, I just want to say welcome if you're here to the Heal Your Hunger Show for the first time. So welcome. I'm glad you found us. This is where women come when they are so tired of diets. They're so tired of failing at weight loss programs. And, and they have a relationship with food that's a little gnarly. Okay. And this was me. I was 50 pounds overweight, and, my relationship with food was messed up. It just was. And I didn't realize it. I thought I just liked food. So I didn't realize it until my sister actually brought up the idea of emotional eating. She came home one day and announced that she was an emotional eater. And I thought, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But when she said it, I couldn't get it out of my head. And I started to realize I am an emotional eater. So that was many moons ago. Like, that was literally, I hate to even say, that was, maybe literally 40 years ago. So I've been on this journey, and by the grace of God, I've healed from emotional eating one day at a time, not cured, but I have an amazing life today on account of the system that I was shown, and now I show other women how to follow. So that's what I talk about here, is how to overcome emotional eating, not from diets, not from controlling food and weight, but really from going deeper. So I call it weight loss from the inside out. Now, if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, you can just hop over to healyourhunger.com and take a free quiz. And on this quiz, you're literally gonna find out in like 3 minutes. So you'll get a personalized score to find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. Also, I record many of my shows from my Facebook group called The Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating. So definitely check that out. Go to Facebook and type in Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating and join us there. And I hop in there often, and I do different shows and talks, and you're the first to know about things coming up. So I'm just excited that we have that community for you. It's totally free. Please definitely check that out. So on with the show. Stop the menopause madness. OMG. So OMG, I have OBGYN and functional medicine expert, Dr. Kyrin Dunston here. And she lost 100 pounds and healed herself from chronic disease by addressing the root causes of her health issues. So she's been featured on numerous podcasts and summits, and we've been friends for quite a long time now, supporting each other on this important mission of helping women heal. So she has an upcoming summit called Stop the Menopause Madness. And in the show notes, you'll actually find a link to that amazing event where 50 experts share their top strategies for weight loss, energy, balancing their mood, feeling sexy, looking great, and mastering midlife, which is where I happen to be right now. So this is going to be cool. I'm going to make it personal. Welcome, Kyrin. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Tricia. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Yeah, this is great. When I realized this is, what we're going to dig into today, I thought this is perfect because, I got some issues going on. I don't think I'm in menopause. I know I'm not in menopause yet because I still have a period, but, I know I'm getting close. I gotta be, right? So I hit the big 50 a couple years ago. So 3 years ago, actually. And so I need to know about these things. I mean, there's many women in my tribe and in the Secret Sauce group who definitely either are going through it right now or about to, or have already. But I really want to, I want to know this for myself. Like, how can I prepare and what can I do? So, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thanks for blessing us with your amazing expertise. Are you okay if I make this personal? Like all about me?
Absolutely. You don't go into OBGYN if you don't like personal conversations.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Well, how wonderful that you do this work, and thank you for your commitment to helping women heal. So, okay, so perimenopause. Let's talk about that first. What's that about? When does it happen typically, and what symptoms does one tend to experience?
Sure. So perimenopause, peri meaning around the menopause, and it can start 5 to 10 years before menopause. And the average age of menopause in our country is 51. So you're actually past that.
Yeah.
Uh, but it can start as early as 35, actually, when women start experiencing their hormonal impoverishment. It can be very gradual, and the symptoms can start with things like irregular, painful, heavy periods. Fibroids and endometriosis are actually a sign of that. And usually the hot flashes don't come till later, though, but decreased sex drive, mood problems, so anxiety. A lot of women have their first panic attack in the perimenopause. And, a lot of doctors don't know that the hormonal changes can be associated with that. So they'll just treat with anxiety medications. So mood problems, cognitive problems, brain fog. Oh, why did I come in this room? I can't remember your name. What am I supposed to do today?
Yep.
Things like that. I mean, it can affect gastrointestinal health. So some women will start having indigestion, gassy bloatiness, irritable bowel for no reason. That's common.
Wow, that's a lot of different symptoms.
Right, because they're called sex hormones that start changing: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. But you actually have more receptors for these hormones in your brain and central nervous system than you do anywhere else. You don't that have to do with reproduction, I should say. So you have most of them in your central nervous system, but you've got them all over in your skin, hair, nails, in your gastrointestinal system, your bones, your muscles, everywhere. So really there are 3 hormones that are part of the 7 hormones that I call master regulators. And a side function is your fertility and your ability to get pregnant. Yeah.
Wow. So, so that's around menopause. Some of those things are so different. How does one get to the bottom of that? I'm glad we're doing this interview so people can get clued in. Like maybe it's not your gastroenterologist that you should be, hitting up. Maybe it should be your OBGYN.
Well, that's a good point, but most OBGYNs aren't trained in assessment of sex hormones, believe it or not, Tricia.
No, I can't believe that. Wow.
Right. So I wasn't trained in that. And that's really part of my story, is that my health suffered, and I weighed over 240 pounds and had chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, anxiety and depression, and my hair was falling out. I was just tired all the time, and I looked and felt 20 years older than I was. And this was when I was 48 that I discovered functional medicine. So I was a regular practicing OBGYN, and there's no standard of care for checking hormones, which is kind of insane because we check everything. We check your potassium, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, but there's no standard of care for checking hormones. It's really symptom treatment with birth control pills and things like that. And so I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I couldn't fix it until I discovered functional medicine. And it really was when I discovered a root cause resolution approach using natural treatments that I was able to lose the weight, regain my energy, heal from fibromyalgia, get off prescription medications for anxiety and depression, and regain my life. And then, of course, all my patients who are middle-aged women said, "What are you doing? We want that." So I started doing it with them. So when you say go, and they had the same results, when you say go to your gynecologist, not so much. They're not going to know what to do. They're just going to put you on a birth control pill, antidepressant, the usual pill for every ill, because they're not trained in it. So then I discovered functional medicine. I healed myself. I got fellowship trained in it. So really now what I do is I don't do OB or GYN. I specialize in holistic women's treatments that provide a root cause resolution. So you need a functional provider, all that.
Got
to say
it.
that.
Well, and thank goodness, they're becoming more and more common, and that you thankfully found it and were able to help yourself. That's amazing. Okay, so those are some perimenopause symptoms, and how does one deal with that if they're really debilitated by it? I don't think I have had that. I do have a habit of getting up in the middle of the night and staying up for like an hour and a half.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, is that a hormonal issue? I mean, I've been doing it for like 3 or 4 years, and it's maybe not so good. I've gotten used to it to where I kind of like my time at night and do a little work. And sometimes I call my sister on the East Coast and, talk from like 3 to 3:30 in the morning. Anyway, it's crazy. But how does one start to, turn this stuff around?
Yeah, so the waking up in the middle of the night is very common, and sleep is multifactorial. So a lot of different hormones go into making you sleep well, including thyroid has to be happy, your cortisol has to be happy, your estrogen and progesterone have to be happy, your melatonin has to be happy. So you have all these things that go into making good sleep. But there's always a reason that if you're waking up in the middle of the night, it's not like you just do that out of the blue. There's a reason. And the reason isn't because you don't have Ambien, which is kind of the mainstream answer. It's because those hormones are out of balance. And so it starts with assessing those hormones. Where are they? And then giving them what they need to be happy.
Yeah. And I mean, when I've done hormone tests, I've checked out. So maybe I just need to dig deeper or something. Cause I have a thyroid, little hypothyroid going on, and I take, T4 and T3 for that, but maybe I just need to dig deeper in some of because even if you check out in blood tests, you could still have an issue. I know that's true for thyroid.
Yeah, that's true for thyroid, and mainstream thyroid tests are not really what you need to do to get at the root of thyroid problems. There are a lot of tests you need to do and to tweak, but it could be some of these other hormones. Cortisol is a huge one. Cortisol is our stress hormone. I have only seen one woman with what I call optimal cortisol curve, and she happened to be someone who brought her daughter to me, and her daughter was having problems, and she said, I take impeccable care of myself, but I just want to know what mine looks like, because her daughter's was pretty bad and she was in high school. So we checked it and it was beautiful. That's the only normal one I've ever seen. What does this mean?
Wow.
Our stress hormone cortisol for most all of us is somewhat jacked up, shall we say. And that often presents as waking up in the middle of the night, or not having restful sleep, or not being able to fall asleep. So, and that's not something, so a salivary cortisol test is not even in the lexicon, not in the language of mainstream medicine. So if you say to a mainstream doctor, like, I want a salivary cortisol test, they're going to say, what? They don't even know what that is. So there's that testing that definitely would be a part of it. And then even the sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, even if you find a doctor who's willing to do it, most of them aren't because they're not knowledgeable in it. They might not read them the right way. So why is that? I think a lot of people would want to know. Because the quote unquote normal values that the lab uses, or reference ranges, are defined by what 95% of the population has. And there's a large variability in that. So the reference ranges are huge. And really in functional medicine, we aim for optimal ranges or optimal levels, which is like what a 20-year-old would have at the height of their health. So you need to be comparing it to that. So you might be in the normal quote unquote range. That's what happened to me with my thyroid when I checked it at least 10 times when I weighed 240 pounds. And it was quote unquote normal. And then when I did the right tests and I read them the right way and looking for optimal function, I didn't have optimal thyroid function. And the difference, Tricia, is huge. Like that's the difference between you can maintain a normal weight or you're overweight. That's the difference between I don't poop every day And I only poop once every 4 days. That's the
Oh,
difference between I want to take a nap in the afternoon and I have great energy. So looking at the hormones and reading them the right way is key.
amen. I love that. So, and when you talk about the saliva test, is that like an adrenal stress test? Is that the same as the cortisol test?
Yeah, you can call it adrenal stress index. A lot of different companies call it different things, but it's basically
Yeah.
you collect saliva 4 times in the day, morning, noon, afternoon, midnight, and then you look at the distribution of the curve, you look at the total amount of output, and kind of, is your cortisol, your stress hormone supporting you or not? And is it functioning normally?
Beautiful. So let's talk about menopause. What are some of the symptoms, women typically have?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually same but more intense, and then you add on the hot flashes. That's
Right.
when your estrogen really starts plummeting. In perimenopause, actually what can happen is the estrogen can start going up, and you can feel like you're in this perpetual PMS because your progesterone's going down, and you need, estrogen is the Goldilocks hormone. You need just the right amount. Too much or too little, you feel crabby and grumpy and crappy. And progesterone is the happy, sleep well, weight loss, diuretic, antidepressant, anti-anxiety hormone. It just makes you feel good. I don't know if anyone's been pregnant, but most pregnant women feel really good. Like when I was pregnant, I felt great. So that's happening in perimenopause. And then in menopause, most people's estrogen starts coming down below where it should be. And 80% of women have not enough progesterone. Well, that's a bad combination for feeling really bad. So hot flashes, night sweats, the sleeplessness and difficulty sleeping really accelerates. The fatigue can really accelerate. That brain fog of like, I don't even feel like myself anymore. My personality, I don't have the energy to be who I know I am, is very common. The weight gain. So 60% of women by the age of 50 are overweight or obese. And by the time we're 60, it's 75% of us. So the weight starts packing on, and then that weight is linked directly to your energy. So as energy goes down, weight starts going up. And then you can have a lot of vaginal symptoms, right? So dryness, itching, and atrophy, pain with intercourse, low sex drive is very common at menopause. But then all those same things we talked about in perimenopause, the brain and mood issues, bone loss. So we start losing bone at 30, but it accelerates at menopause. So we can get osteopenia or osteoporosis, muscle mass shrinking, which is a key indicator of our weight. So it can just span all aspects of your health.
Okay, so that's all really depressing.
Yes.
I'm now depressed. So talk to me about like how people can avoid that. Like me, like I don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
I will say, I think genetics are in my favor because I've asked my mom, I've said, Mom, what was menopause like for you? And she's like, and it's like 5 minutes later, I'm like, Mom, what was it like for you? She's like, I don't really know. I'm like, well, that's a good sign. She can't even remember it. So must have been not too bad.
Right. Yeah. So it's because of hormonal impoverishment that we're having this. And because we haven't been tending to our cortisol, our stress hormone. We've been knowing for years we're supposed to meditate, but we don't do it. And we know that we're supposed to do all these self-care things, but we're like, I don't have the time. And so we don't do it. And so to start with even just simple things that you can do every day, I would say the number one thing you can do is change your diet. That is actually, most women aren't aware that that's the biggest programmer of your hormones. And so just tweaking your diet, getting rid of foods that are highly inflammatory like gluten and dairy is often key, and decreasing the glycemic index of what you're eating. So no sugar, and none of those pre-digested foods that are, I call fast carbs, like bread and pasta and white rice and white potatoes and cheese. Your body turns those into sugar, and that directly goes in and hits your insulin, which then affects all your other hormones, it's a symphony, so they all work together. That's one of the number one things women can do. And then doing those stress management things that we know about, right? Meditation, not doing 1,000 things at a time.
Yeah, no more superwoman.
Right.
Yeah.
Stop saying yes to everything, and
Yeah.
really being mindful about how you're spending your time and your energy. And of course, then there are functional practitioners who can help you check all of this. And that's what I suggest for all women. Once you hear about functional medicine and salivary hormone testing, is find yourself a functional practitioner. Get tested, know where you are. Do you see if you need to be tweaked at that time? But if not, you have a good baseline. You can do it down the line, and then you have something to compare it to.
That's beautiful advice. I love that. And then what about post-menopause? Are there issues with that?
Yeah, so once you're in menopause, you are post-menopausal. And it's funny, I'll talk to some women and they'll say, well, how long does this last, right? So menopause is an event. When you haven't had a period for 12 months, that's menopause. But then you're immediately post-menopausal, or we say you're in menopause. So you never get out of it. That's why, there's a lot of confusion about this. I actually did a video on YouTube about what the different phases are to help everyone understand. So you never get out of it. It doesn't end. It's till death do us part. We are menopausal. And so the symptoms can just continue, although that actual transition in that time when you're stopping completely can be real smooth for some people. There's some cultures, they don't even have a word for menopause because there are no symptoms. So we have in our country what I call pathologic menopause. And we have it because we have cortisol problems that we haven't addressed. And so they blow up these sex hormone changes. But like I said, in some cultures, they just sail through. They're like, I had my last period, didn't notice anything. So
wow.
It's very different here.
And that's from lifestyle. Is that what I hear you saying is that they've got a more balanced lifestyle and stress is not their driver, so they're not out of balance and they're not whacked out with menopause, whereas we are.
Exactly. It is their lifestyle. It's what they're eating. It's what they're not doing. They're not running around 100 miles an hour, commuting 2 hours each day to work, working 10-hour days, and, being the soccer mom and, the PTA and the church, running stuff at church. They're not doing a zillion things. So they live a quieter, kind of more mindful, earth-based, plant-based life. So they don't have the cortisol problems that we do. And then also if they haven't tapped into the standard American diet, the SAD diet, and they don't have McDonald's, then they're eating a very toxin-free diet that's low in processed foods and low in processed sugars, and they're not using microwaves and all the insanity that we have going on with, cell towers everywhere and just all the toxins that we come in contact with.
Yeah. Wow. Well, all the more reason why people need to start evaluating, their food issues from a whole new standpoint as well. I always say overeaters or overdoers, overthinkers and overdoers, and we have to start dealing with the underlying causes and really that has to change. Like I always say, it's not really an eating problem. It's a living problem. And it sounds like it's not as much of a hormone problem as it is a living problem. Same.
Well, because it affects your hormones. How you live your life directly affects your hormones. And, I know a lot of women are probably surprised to hear that because their doctor never said that to them because, they weren't educated in that. But how you live your life is directly speaks to your hormones, which are the communicators in your body. So there's so much that you can do just reevaluating how you're living your life. And like you say, the overdoing.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Can you talk, just have a few minutes left. So let's talk about this summit that you have coming up. And you have 50 guests. That's insane. Speaking of what we're doing, Kyrin.
We ended up with 53. There's so many topics of importance to women at menopause, perimenopause, and midlife. I could have easily been at 100, but I had to cut it off somewhere because it's just so much. But anyway, it's an awesome event, the Stop the Menopause Madness Summit, which you participated in and offered so much value.
Thank you for having me.
You know, when your hormones are wonky, your body wants to come into balance. So what does it do? It craves certain foods, and that can lead to that overeating. And so healing your hunger is so important. So thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure.
On the summit. And we've got experts on all the hormones. We have 3 people talking about estrogen. And we've got someone talking about progesterone, testosterone. I think we have 3 people talking about cortisol, the stress hormone that we just touched on, because that is really the key to your health. We got people talking about toxicity and how it plays in with menopause, how to detox your home, which is a key source of toxicity in our lives that most people aren't aware of. We have people talking about the mental shifts that can happen at this time of life during your second spring, and really reevaluating who you are and maybe some things you didn't heal that you need to go back and heal, and how you might know you need to do that. Wow,
it sounds amazing.
Yeah, it is
good
amazing.
For you. Thanks for putting that together. I know that is a real labor of love. It takes so much work to put something like that on, and it's good timing. You know, I mean, I think when people are at home with COVID, you know, and quarantining, more than ever, we have to, you know, take advantage of this time to really tune in and get the right information about our health and how to really be optimally healthy. So thank you so much for coming on and illuminating me about kind of what I'm going through and maybe what is up or what I can avoid, hopefully, in the future with menopause. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And Kyrin, before we close, I have a question that I like to ask my guests, since this is the Heal Your Hunger show. Can you tell me what you feel is your deepest hunger?
Oh, that's a great question. Let me just think for a second.
Yeah.
I think it's for meaning and connection. Meaningful connection is what I would say. Meaningful connection with you, with everybody listening, with all the speakers on the summit, with all the people who are going to attend, with everyone I come in contact with. I'd say that's what it is.
That's beautiful. And that's what we really crave, right? Like, we're not hungry for food. We're really hungry for connection. So I love that. It's so beautiful. And you're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank
thank you.
And participating.
Yes, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I will catch you on the next show. And Kyrin, thanks so much for blessing us today with your beautiful spirit.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.